Good morning, CLC. Welcome. Happy New Year. Happy 2021. Woohoo! We're here. I hope everyone is excited for the new year. We certainly are. Welcome to January, where if you have been with us for quite some time, you know that we get into the basics of science of mind. So I'm not going to talk too long because I can't wait for Jesse to get up here. I invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And now, I ask you, invite you, and welcome you to relax in this moment. Take a few deep breaths. Calm your body. Center your mind. Put all the things that you have going on in the days and weeks in the past and anything coming up ahead aside just for now. And be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week, visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words: I accept. knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes and turn to the world around me and joyfully speak to anyone present in the room or virtually on Facebook right now and say to them, I am grateful for the good in all of your lives.
Good morning, Creative Life, and all the ships at sea. As Danielle mentioned, this is the basic series in the Science of Mind. What is the Science of Mind? What are we doing here anyway? Well, for months now, if you've been watching us, we've talked about forgiveness and gratitude. We've had interdependence around the 4th of July. We've had resurrection around Easter. We just passed through Christmas and talked about the birth of the Christ ideal in each of us. And you may be wondering, what is all this stuff based on? What is the premise for all of this? Well, that's what I'm here to tell you about this month in particular, the premise. the premise is simply this. There's a power in the universe, that is infinite, everlasting, contains everything within it, including you. And this presence is fully represented, fully manifested at every point within itself. One of those points is you. As we go through these future weeks, this month and into February, we're going to look at what you can do about that, what I can do about that, and how we can best show forth this one in our lives. But today, because we just went through some holidays and everybody's tired, there's nothing to do. There's nothing that anybody needs to do. You at home don't have to do a thing. All I'm going to present you with today is perspective. A perspective. Here's a little something. I was fumbling with my phone. Here's a little something along the lines of perspective. Also, here's a helpful pointer about phone care. What you'll want to do if you eat and use your phone a lot, after a while it won't recognize your thumbprint. So you have to clean your phone, turn your phone on, okay? I thought that would be good for everyone to know. Okay, I want to read you. This is in a photo file that I have. This is from the New York Times. Do you enjoy reading the Sunday New York Times? This is from the New York Times on December the 31st, 1907. 1907. So that's what? Carry the 314. 114 years ago. Watch the Times Tower, says the headline. The descent of an electric ball will mark the arrival of 1908 tonight. And they hyphenate tonight, like in the old days, tonight, isn't that cute? Times Square, having become the center of the gaiety attending New York's welcome to the new year, the Times building will be especially illuminated tonight in honor of the birth of 1908. The exact moment of the New Year's arrival will be signalized by the dropping of an electrically illuminated ball above the tower. This ball will be 5 feet in diameter, and light for it will be supplied by 216 electric lamps. At the moment of its descent from the top of the flagpole to the roof of the tower, electric signs will flash the youngster's name to the 4 quarters of the town. And when I read through it, I had to think, well, who's the youngster? And I had to go back up, and well, it means the year, the new year. That's the youngster, the new young year. To the 4 quarters of the town. And I'm thinking, New York City's a pretty big town, and it's like, how's everybody going to see this at 5 feet in diameter? Look at this rug, okay? We're talking 216 electric lamps. But there wasn't a lot of light in the city in those days. See? So this thing would have stood out. And people go up on their rooftops. There weren't 100-story buildings there yet until really into the 1920s. And so you'd go up on the roof of your apartment building, and down the way you'd be able to see this thing. And if you had a spyglass, you could look and you'd see, and it would spell out 1908, The ball that dropped the other night to empty Times Square has 32,000 LED lights. It has Waterford crystals. It's 12 feet in diameter, okay? It has not only all these Waterford crystals, but the exact count and placement of them, they all mean something. Joy and peace and this and this, and there's a whole, you can go to the website and there's a whole long explanation about what everything on the ball that drops means, okay? Because it's a much brighter city now, but you probably still, you might have difficulty seeing it from the roof of your apartment building because there's other stuff in the way. Why I'm telling you this, besides the fact that it's just after New Year's, and this is some useful New Year's trivia to know and share in the year to come, is that light is a metaphor, and it's a metaphor that we use heavily in this teaching. There's a light. There's a light that you saw. There's a light that you saw, and you've been trying to recreate it ever since. There's a light that when you came into this world, it came with you, and you perceived it. You saw it in others. You saw it in things. You saw it in nature. In fact, it's said that you as a being have a circle around you called nature. Nature has a circle around it called possibility, called the cosmos of becoming, okay? And the cosmos of becoming has a circle around it called eternity. Well, you came from eternity, and I came from eternity into locality, all right? Into local presence here. Little infant you were, you know, and you saw this light. And gradually you got distracted, because we do. And they told you, well, now, all right, that's fine and all. And of course, this is pre-verbal, so you couldn't really explain what you were. In fact, grown-ups can't explain it either. But as a little child, you had no words for what this thing was. But they began to teach you, with the best of intentions, all kinds of practical skills, starting with things like the alphabet, you know, and numbers, and basic, and they told you this is what you need to know. This is really important, rudiments of language. And then they started, as you went through school or homeschooling, you went through different levels of information, and they started talking to you about history and philosophy and science and so on. Pretty soon you had all this information, and some of it bored you to tears, and some of it really interested you, and so you kind of, you know, veered in that direction to get more information. The light remained a memory at the back of your consciousness, and it became a yearning, because for a while you thought, and I say you, and I mean no disrespect, as I'm talking about myself here, but I'm speaking to cameras. So we thought, all right? We thought. For a while, we thought that all the information that we were getting was going to add up to the light. That if we figured out arithmetic and language and this and social skills and so on, that it would all somehow equate to that. But it didn't. It was just data. It was just data. What we were missing was a framing context in which to hold all of this. I found a framing context that I'm very happy with, and that's why I'm standing here talking to you about it. As the month goes on, I'll tell you more about who I am and who we are and why I'm standing here talking about anything at all. But why I'm talking about this is because I'm passionate about it. It saved my life. It showed me my life. I mean, saved my life. I know that sounds dramatic. Look, I didn't know this, I'd be dead. Well, you know, it goes way beyond that. It goes way beyond that. It goes into, it saved me from wasting my life. It saved me from missing out on everything that I could be, that I could experience, that I could share. This perspective. And it was explained to me in a place that called itself a church of religious science. We don't call ourselves that much anymore. We've morphed into something called Centers for Spiritual Living, and that's what we are here, is a representative of that group called Creative Life Spiritual Center. At the time it was Church of Religious Science. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It could have been anywhere. But this is where I heard it. And what I heard were words that fit the music that I carried in the door with me. What I heard was a context for the yearning that I had for the experience of light. They told me, in so many words, that I was not crazy and that I was not alone. And I recall now that back in March when we first went virtual here, I think that was one of the first things that was said in one of the services was, you're not crazy. You know, that you come into this teaching and you realize you're not crazy and you're not alone, and there are other people who think this. Now maybe we're all delusional and we've just found our tribe of other delusional people to stand in this, you know? And maybe that's the case. But this stuff also has real world application outside of just the walls that we're within, you know? Because when you walk through this life, affirming that there's light, affirming that everyone you meet is a being of light, affirming that everyone you meet either remembers that or has forgotten that. And if they've forgotten it, they're on their way to remembering it. And how you know that is because you crossed paths with them. You know, when you start carrying that awareness with you, deliberately, consciously, it is reflected back to you. And all of a sudden, you're not alone. Outside of just your enclave of people who know you and that you trust, suddenly out in the world at large, with so-called strangers, you're not alone there either. And you don't know these people, that's why we call them strangers. You don't know these people, and you don't have a lot of, history with them, if at all. But all of a sudden they're like, you're not threatened. It's okay. It's okay. And in nature, it's okay. And in change, and in time, and in space, and in sickness, and in death, it's still, there's something there. There's something there that says, you're more than this. We're more than just mortal beings who come into this world for a time. There's this whole big argument that goes on about, is consciousness the creation of the brain, or is the brain the creation of consciousness? We go back and forth on this. I tend to believe that when the neural network of the self got complex enough in evolution, the eternal soul was able to incarnate into it. Can I prove this? No, but it makes me happy to believe it. Not only that, but when I believe it, I feel confident. I feel immortal. I feel eternal. I feel infinite. I regard other people as immortal and eternal and infinite. I'm not just dumping off my phobias and neuroses on them or expecting them to do that to me. We operate on a higher level now. A higher level of communication, a higher level of conversation. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, who you will also hear more about, said that the time will come when all apparent evil, all apparent struggle, all apparent lack and limitation will be rolled up like a scroll and numbered with the things that were once thought to be. And I picture it like just that, rolled up, like wrapping paper, rolled up, stuck in a pigeon. And he says, and our conversation will be in heaven. And what that means to me is not that we'll all be picked up and transported to heaven where we'll have a conversation. Rather, it is when we're talking here, it will be on a heavenly plane. How do you have a conversation on a heavenly plane here? You talk about possibilities, you talk about ideas, you talk about great things. What's that old saying about small people talk about people? And medium-sized people talk about themselves, and great people talk about ideas. I don't know, it's a little glib. But talking about ideas works. Because it inspires, there's no agenda that the individual brings to it where they have to get something out of it. It's like, let's create ideas together, and it doesn't matter whose name is on this. It doesn't matter who takes credit for this. That's how, if you follow that out to its logical conclusion, you build a world that works for everyone, where everybody shares in the creation of this, and it's not I did this and you did that, and everything's signed and copyrighted and trademarked away. We get hung up on words. We were taught to. We were taught to quantify and qualify, and I've shared with you before that I had a teacher in school. This sticks in my memory because I went to a school largely run by nuns, and most of the teachers were nuns, but there was this guy, and there were several men who taught, and this guy, I remember, he was a great big guy, and big gray head of hair, and very, what's the word I want? Commanding presence, especially to a little kid. And he was teaching us theology or something, and he said, if you can't explain it, you don't know it. You can't, and I wrote that down, can't explain it, I don't know it. I thought there's an awful lot of stuff I can't explain. Must be an awful lot of stuff I don't know. He was wrong. Okay? He was wrong. Nice man, no disrespect, probably long gone now. He was wrong. He was mistaken. In certain narrow sciences, this may be true, but that is not a mantra for life. That if you can't explain it, you don't know it. Because I promise you the stuff that you don't know is where your salvation lies. Listen to this song we just heard. Where it talks about Jesus being, Wexford Carol, wasn't that? Yes. Yeah. Jesus being born to Mary. The whole thing's a mystery. As we go through this, you'll see when we're talking about the science of mind, There is a science of mind, and then there's a mystery of mind. Science of mind's about 10% of it. Mystery of mind's about the other 90. For real. For real. You've heard of The Secret? You may be trying to peg us, like where does this place fit on the spectrum of philosophies. You've heard of The Secret? You've heard of the law of attraction? Yeah, we're down with that. And that's about 10% of what's so. 90% is like, whoa. 90% is astonishment, awe, mystery, mystery, mystery. Yes, you can manifest things. Yes, you can manifest miracles. I'm standing on a stage in a place that was manifested out of thin air by people who got together who decided they wanted to have a conversation about this stuff, and it's gone on for decades now, okay? Where I'm standing was once dirt. And there's a center here now. There's a whole campus here. One day soon you're going to get to see it firsthand, But there's a whole campus here. So every time I need a reminder that stuff can be manifested, I come here and I look around. And you go there and you look around and you look in your life and you look at all the things and all the friendships, especially the relationships and things that you called into your life. And you say, I used to be alone and now I have you. It's like this is how it happens. So manifestation is real. Using the science of mind to manifest is an actual wonderful thing. And there's a lot more to it. A lot more to it. Because once you've manifested things, now what? See, there's always more. There's always more to become. I mentioned that we get hung up in words. People will say, now religious science, science of mind, is that like this group that sounds similar? Or is it like this other group over here that sounds similar? I could talk forever on this, but you decide. You decide where we fit. People will say, are you people Christian? And the correct answer is yes, some of us are. Is this a Christian teaching? And the correct answer is yes, some of it is. And some of it's Buddhist, and some of it's Muslim, and some of it's Hindu, and some of it has no name. And some of it is ethical secularism, which I know is alarming to some people. Ethical secularism, or secular ethics if you prefer, it's alarming to some people. Christianity is alarming to other people. Everybody is jumpy about stuff. And right now we live in a polarized world where labels and names, what do you mean by that? And everything's kind of like, Well, Christianity is, to take as one example, is a very broad philosophy and theology. It is not simply one way of looking at Scripture, one way of looking at Christ, one way of looking at salvation or the world to come. There are many different interpretations of its work that are possible and that are accomplished within it, and the same is true of all of the other spiritual teachings. We draw from these in this teaching. We are what's called syncretic or syncretistic. We draw from it. If you could see the room here, you'll see we have banners representing the symbols. I'm catching our camera person off guard here, but we have symbols. She can't do that. Can't make it swivel that far. Maybe next week we'll do. But it's have to take it off. And yeah, we'll figure out a way to get it to you. But take my word for it. For now, we have symbols of the major world faith traditions here in this center because we draw from all of them. And I'll talk more about this another time because I don't want to take up too much of your time today. But you've heard of cultural appropriation. And cultural appropriation is a very disrespectful thing. And what it would mean is that we take one of these systems of thought for our purposes here. We take one of these systems of thought and say, oh, that's just like what I believe because here I'm going to cram it into, my worldview and make it fit and trim off the edges that don't. And that's cultural appropriation because each of these teachings, thousands upon thousands of years, millions upon millions of adherents have poured their souls into this. I have no idea what it means to be a Jew. I have no idea what it means to be a Muslim or a Hindu or a Buddhist or a practitioner of Shinto. I was raised a Christian. I have no idea what it means to be a Christian because all I know is what my experience of it was, not the next person, over in the pew. So to say, here's what it means, is off base. To say, here's where it points, is strong. Because you know what? I really believe they all point to the same place. In different languaging and a different cultural milieu and so on, they all head to the same place, which is what Ernest Holmes and other New Thought founders believe too. He said, look at this here. It says the power is within you. The presence is within you. Isn't that amazing? All the mystics of the centuries have said there is one. There is one life. And you are that life. You are that life. One life. One power, one presence. Jeffrey Oshman, our music director here, has just moved to the piano bench because he heard me say the words, there is one life. And this is typically how we begin the thing called spiritual mind treatment, or scientific prayer that we end the services with. And so he heard that. Now, if I go on long enough, he'll move back off the piano bench to the chair, you know. Shoot me a look, too, he will. You're just a puppet on a string. All right. So I want to close with this, and I am going to do. You stay put. I'll be with you in a minute. I want to close with this idea. What I would love for you to think about this week, those of you who are watching, and whenever you watch this, start your week then, okay? You know, or whatever, however long you want to go with it, is try to identify the light. You got all kinds of lights. A beautiful full moon the other night. So there's the moonlight. You know, today is bathed in sunlight. These are obvious lights to us. There's the Times Square ball light. There's the light of, they make headlights brighter these days. Have you noticed that? Like, whoa, driving at night, or maybe I'm getting a little older or something, but those halogen lights are like, man. And so, you know, yeah, so there's light that you know, and all the Christmas lights, which are, our stage has been stripped for the season, but many houses still have them up till the 6th because it's 12th night. And so these are all lights you know. Look for lights you don't. Look for lights you'd forgotten. Look for the aura that's around people. And I don't mean to be all, you know, woo-woo with you, but there is one. We have electric fields. I know we do. I just shocked the living daylights out of Lisa, touching her on the back in the wool sweater she has on, and it's a cold day, and she jumped about a foot, plus she was touching the iPad at the time, and so I don't know, we probably shorted out the whole building. So this is the power that we have. We know we have electrical fields. Look for this light, but beyond just the scientific and the physical, look for the light of love. Look for the light of love. Look for the light that unites all of us, the oneness in all of us. Even in the strange times that we're in, even in the suffering that we're in. I know the holidays have been weird. I saw a lot fewer antlers on cars and wreaths on 18-wheeler grills. It tells me people are kind of, you know, not all jazzed up about what all took place in the holidays. People are looking forward with trepidation. I know that. The light does not know that. That's why we go to it. The light doesn't say, I know. The light's not a buddy. You know what I mean? It doesn't, look, I know times are tough and we'll get through it and all this. The light says, come unto me. The light just knows lightness. It just knows fullness. It just knows wholeness. There's a part, as I've been saying for months now since we got together at the beginning of the pandemic online here, there is a place where nothing has ever been wrong. That place is the light of you. So in the week to come, look for the light. Imagine the light. And we'll get together next week and talk about now how we take our steps in the light, under the light, now that we clearly see where it is we're wishing to head. Okay? So, I'm going to do now something briefly called spiritual mind treatment. It's a form of prayer. I'll, again, coming attractions, tell you more about where it came from and why it's useful. It has to do with believing in the thing that you're speaking about, as though it were real, as though it were so, before it appears, okay? So, let's know together now there is one light, one life, one power, one infinite overarching intelligence, purposefulness, kindliness, and love. One. This one is present throughout its own creation and is not absorbed by its creation. So it is fully present at every point. And one of those points is me, and one of those points is you, and one of those points is your best friend, and one of those points is your dog. Each of these points is a place of infinite intelligence at the level of its capacity to understand and express. And even a rock is this one. And we call this one God. Or another name if you prefer, if it sounds unlike the God of your understanding. You might think of it as a field of energy. You might think of it as the ultimate ground of all being. But whatever you think of it is less important than that you do think of it. When sucked in, especially to the appearances of separation and division and opposition that are presented to us in daily life, look past these to the one, to the yearning to know, to the light that you seek and have sought since you first came to earth, since you first hit town. And that light will identify itself to you. That light will come pouring out of every doorway. It will show itself visually. It will show itself as sound, as touch, as taste, smell. And most of all, as just a yes. Just a yes beyond the senses, a yes in the heart, an affirmation that this is so, that this one life in and through me, as me, is me, and all things are possible to me because of this, for this knowing and its manifestation in form, in and through my life, each day, each way. I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into spiritual law, letting it go, calling it done, and so it is.
I'm doing what all the cool kids do. I'm bringing my phone up on stage. Only because I saw this a couple of days ago. And then when I was doing the daily reading today, it was like I consciously enter into the living, I think was the title. It was only a couple hours ago. And it reminded me of a poem that I had seen, which, by the way, this one is courtesy of, it's Mary Oliver, but I got it from Maggie. So occasionally, if any of you are friends with me on Facebook and then you see something you posted on your page, on the CLC page, I probably stole it from you. So I will put this one up later, or maybe when I get off the stage. Because Jesse was talking about the light. And one of the lights that I thought of this morning is spontaneous joy. Because there hasn't been a whole lot of that lately. And what I want to do is encourage people to, as this post said, when you feel that spontaneous joy, let it flow through you. Let it light you up. And this is Mary Oliver from Don't Hesitate. If you suddenly and unexpectedly feel joy, don't hesitate. Give in to it. There are plenty of lives and whole towns destroyed or about to be. We are not wise and not very often kind, and much can never be redeemed. Still, life has some possibility left. Perhaps this is a way of fighting back, that sometimes something happens better than all the riches or power in the world. It could be anything, but very likely you notice it in the instant when love begins. Anyway, that's often the case. Anyway, whatever it is, don't be afraid of its plenty. Joy is not made to be a crumb. So, yeah, I had to go dig that one up, and then I had to remember, okay, who posted that? Thankfully, it was the first person I tried. So joy is not meant to be a crumb. And joy is truly light. Because when you feel joy, your face lights up. So that's what I'm going to know for you today, is joy. There is one life, one power, one presence, one love. Dare I say, one joy. And I am a part of that joy. That joy flows through me. That joy flows around me. That joy flows in me. And I know that that joy flows in you. I know that there is a place within you where that spark of joy is. And I know that that joy is growing because it is coming from an inexhaustible place. It is coming from a place that knows only joy, that knows only love, that knows only peace, that knows only harmony. And it is flowing up through us out into the world. And it is our joy to carry this joy to all the corners of the world, to all the people that we meet, to become the light of joy. And so I'm grateful for this spontaneous joy, for the joy that comes from nowhere, for the joy that has no reason, because we don't require a reason to be joyful. Let us be as little children and be happy just because. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being. And I release it, knowing that it is so, even as I speak these words. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use
And
it.
I love it.
And I love
And
it.
so it is.
And so it is.